Hey everybody, so this is the beginning to the first series of tutorials in regards to battlefield destruction within the UDK. I am very excited to be showing you guys how to do this. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. There's a lot of different approaches to be able to do this, so with this tutorial I'm hoping just to crack the egg, kind of show you guys the overarching theory behind it, and then you guys can just run with it. So to start with, I made a couple textures, pretty basic. So this is the final, and after coming back after doing this last night, I look and the color values are way off. It's kind of unfortunate, but not a big deal because this is a tutorial. So this is what I kind of did. I have a like a scratches layer, kind of just adding some darkness and some dark and light values in there. Of course, I have a cloud texture with some quite a bit of color value because I don't like this just white and gray. I'd much rather have a I don't know, different color. Even brown's better than that in my opinion. And here's my base layer, which is it's hard to tell because alright, let's see, there we go. Okay, so this layer, yeah, so I tried to find something that wasn't too noisy, and I don't think it looks too bad. Anyways, when you bring everything together, looks something like that, and then when you tile it, that's what it looks like. So here's the next one, which is the tiles. This one was a bit more challenging. I had a hard time kind of figuring out how to make the tiles here and make it not too noisy, but at the same time I wanted to give it some grit, something for the eyes to grip onto. So the first thing I did was I brought in a base layer with hardly anything on it. Then I brought in, of course, some noise with some color value to it, because a lot of times I don't like the color values in textures that I bring in. I added that, and then what I did was I brought in a grid, which you can see here. And if I just set this back to normal, that's kind of what it was. You can just find these on the internet anywhere. Just Google grid. Then I set it to darken, and I was actually surprised at this effect because it looks really good, in my opinion, because it has a little it's a little bit bigger in the corners, like it has a little bit more value in the corners, then it gets a little bit thinner in the straightaways, and it just looks really good. So with that being said, oh, I forgot to mention, one thing I like to do is I like to color code my folders, which you can do by right clicking and just selecting color. Some people don't know about that. In fact, I didn't for a while. So oh wait, that's another thing I forgot to mention. I added a detail layer. This layer is simply to add some much needed detail to that. So it just adds a little bit of, like I said before, a little bit of grit, something to give it a bit more texture and granularity, I guess. So the first thing we're going to do, now that I showed you guys this, I mean, for this tutorial purpose, you can just go on to cgtextures.com and pick up some tileable textures. It doesn't really matter. But the one thing I was going to say, for this tutorial, I found that tileable textures are the way to go, because once you start getting bakes involved, you start getting quite a bit of artifacting. You guys can certainly try it for yourself, but that's kind of what I found. So here we are in 3ds Max. You can do this in any other software. We're not doing anything that you can't do in any 3D package. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a box, turn on snaps, and I'll bring it up. Let's convert it to an editable poly. Let's see. Just go to face selection mode. Make sure snap. I don't know. Sometimes snaps doesn't want to work in perspective viewports. Something like that looks pretty good. I wouldn't change this just for kicks and giggles. Looks pretty good. Now if we hit F4, we'll go to edge face mode. You can change the color of your edges by going into customize. Customize user interface, I think. Actually, might be object properties. Excuse me, I think I might be getting a bit sick. Nope. Well, I'll have to figure out how I did that and make a little tutorial on it or something, because it's really hard to see when they're gray. It's better if they're blue or red or something. Well, actually, yeah, probably blue, because when you select them, they're red. So at this point, what we're going to do is we need even topology. So let's go ahead and do that now. There we go. I was accidentally holding Alt. We connect. Let's go ahead and bring up the subdivisions a bit. It's a bit too much. Actually, that's what I want to do. Let's bring it up to something like that. Also have certain hotkeys enabled that makes this go a bit quicker. That looks pretty good. That looks like some decent topology. Let's go and connect. Alright, now we have a pretty good baseline pillar. Now, it's pretty much all we have to do in 3ds Max. Just going to save it out to folder. Let's see, tutorials, my tutorials. Here we go. 3ds Max saves. Let's go ahead and save this as base mesh inside pillar. Alright, that's our base mesh inside pillar. Essentially there's two ways to do this next part that I've found. One, you can create the outside pillar by essentially retopologizing the inside pillar. Then you extrude the faces out, and then you flatten them based on, or you make them planar based on X, Y, and Z, so they're completely flat along all edges, so you have the outside pillar with that, or the outside part of the pillar, while the inside matches the curvature of the broken apart and destroyed pillar. There's another way that I'm going to try, and that is through what's it called? It is well, it's extruding subtool or something like that. What it does is it takes the existing mesh and it essentially extrudes the faces to create another mesh as a separate subtool. Can't remember the name of it, but we'll find out here in a second. So with that, let's go ahead and whip out our tablets if you have one. Let's go ahead and try and get this to work. Yep, there we go. Oh, that's good. My tablet actually is working this time. My tablet's a little bit buggy. It's a somewhat of a cheapo tablet. Fracture based. You know what I just realized? I forgot to export. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go back to 3ds Max. I'm going to export this. Export selected. Let's see. I'm a bit lost as to where I even am. Oh, here we go. Back up. Oh man, I have way too much stuff. No, training tutorials. My tutorials. Destruction, fracture based. 3ds Max exports. Make sure it's OBJ. And let's call this BM underscore inside pillar. And we're just going to select the preset ZBrush. Alright, that's all done. Now we can go back into ZBrush and whip out our tablets again. Or if you just like to use tablets all the time, you're just using it right now. I see a lot of people doing that, but I have never been able to really get into it myself. So we're going to open this. We're going to draw it out, edit, and make Polymesh 3D. And there it is. Alright, now we have our little inside pillar in here. Let's go ahead and give it some geometry to work with. You're going to want to turn off smooth. You don't want to do a whole lot, maybe bring it up to 1,000 or something and see what we can do with it. That's good enough. So let's go ahead and what will allow us to just beat this mesh apart. Could do clay tubes. Yeah, clay tubes. We're just going to want to take down these corners, beat it down. You can do a bit of smoothing to realign the topology. What you want to do is you want to keep this as low poly as possible for as long as possible, and that's a general rule for high poly modeling. It just allows you to control the your mesh a lot more easily than if you're doing this on a 1.5 million poly sculpt. Let's go ahead and smooth that. Kind of liking this. Don't want to do is you don't really want to mess with this too much. You kind of want to leave that. It's not a big deal if you don't, but I kind of like having some of it resemble what the inside should be. Kind of want to. I'll come back when we up the subdivisions for that, because right now it's just not enough subdivisions to manipulate. Alright, I think that's looking good. Alright, let's go ahead and subdivide again. See how much. Go ahead and just kind of continue on our rampage. Just beat the crap out of it. It's a goal here. Generally speaking, if you notice, a lot of the pillars in a battlefield, when you blow them apart, they're actually not unique like this. They don't have a particularly unique silhouette to them. And the whole reason behind that is because you generally want modularity. You want to be able to reuse that asset without people being able to see the fact that hey, this was used before. If it's really unique, has a unique silhouette, then people are going to be like, oh, I saw that just right across the hallway over there. So I'm just kind of playing around with this, getting it unique myself, because I'm only making one. But if you're making making one for something that you're going to reuse over and over and over, just keep that in mind. You don't want that to be able to, you don't want your audience to be able to tell that you're reusing that asset. Actually, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm kind of making it way too bulbous. I suppose I'll come back with the trim dynamic, Damien standard brush as well. Create some nice grooves in there. If anything, just smooth that out a bit. Alright. It's looking alright. Place you didn't touch up, just kind of smooth it out a bit. Give it a bit more of a good taper. Let's go ahead and bring it up again. Let's see if I can use the trim dynamic yet. Yeah, it's gonna do some good. Trim dynamic is an awesome tool, except I don't want it kind of coming up like that. I want stroke freehand. Let's use a square alpha. It just allows me to really kind of get that rocky feel. Even though this isn't so much rock as it is rubble, we'll kind of get that with the stencils shortly. Smooth as you go. Make sure you're not stretching too much. This brush is amazing for making rocks. As you can probably already tell, I mean, this is looking pretty rocky. We're getting there. Getting to the next subdivision. If you want to create new sort of bulges, you can press Alt and it will do the opposite, obviously, of what you're using. It's looking pretty good. I actually kind of like working far away from your meshes. You guys have probably noticed. Let's see if we can use our, is it in here? Damn standard, there we go. The Damien standard brush. Works pretty well for good cracks. Also works really well for cloth, surprisingly. You know, I don't think there's enough topology here to really do much, and while we're here, I'm gonna just save this out, and we are going to save it as filler inside underscore 01. You never want to save over these, or at least I don't, because I'm paranoid that I'll end up losing my save data. So I create iterations of meshes, so the next save I will do is 002. A lot of times I'll also create hierarchies of saves for different parts during the modeling process. So let's go ahead and subdivide this again. Let's see what we can do here. That's a lot better. Let's go and size this way up. There we go. I like that. Kind of create some nice definition in there. Alright. Maybe just do a couple more. Maybe not there. Yeah, up here. Alright. We're getting there, we're getting there. Let's see, let's go to our trim dynamic. Let's see, oh yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. So now, our Z intensity is not quite. There we go. Again, let's just kind of beat the crap out of it. Doesn't have to be too. You just want some major forms here, you know. The stencils will add all the detail. Don't have to do the detail. We just want to get the flow of the mesh. We want to add the like the big chunks. You know. We want to make sure it reads well. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. That's when you gotta gotta figure out if you wanna what you can do to save the mesh, or if you need to drop it and just do another one. Oh, whoops! Keep on nicking down there. There we go. Let's smooth that. Kind of run out of mesh here, so I'm not going to do many more iterations of this. I would have actually liked to probably have kept this a bit thicker.